Hey guys, it's Luke from Mixing Made Simple, and this is my beginner's guide to setting up a home studio. Let's get started. So first of all you need to make music, if you want to just get started into music production, all you need is a laptop, a DAW or digital audio workstation like Ableton or FL Studio, and a pair of headphones. So I just wanted to throw it in there because I don't want you to think that you need some big fancy home studio or a bunch of different gear or anything to get started making music. You can get started right away if you have a computer and some headphones and a DAW. So here's a list of what you'll need. When we go through the presentation, I'll try to be as brief as possible, but here's a list of everything that we're going to cover. So you'll need a PC or a Mac, a DAW like Ableton or FL Studio or Logic, a desk and some speaker stands, or at least a desk with speaker stands on them, an audio interface, acoustic treatment, and room correction software kind of as a bonus, and then microphones and various instruments. So let's get started. You'll need a computer. You'll need either a Mac or a PC. Personally, I've always been a PC guy. If you're a Mac person, then and you like Macs, then go for it. I've always been a PC person because I built my PC from scratch. I find that it's nice doing this for two reasons. You save money in the long run. So for example, I'm not going to be really specific, but if you spend say $1,000 on building a PC from scratch, that might equate to what you might spend on a already built PC. You might spend $1,500 on like a already built PC that has all the same components, but you're just paying a bit extra for the labor cost. So there's the cost where you'll save money and you can kind of build to your budget, but also just the flexibility and able to customize your computer. So like, for example, I built my PC like 4 years ago. It's getting, it's getting a little bit older now. But recently I just replaced the main hard drive with a larger and faster hard drive. And that added a little bit of speed to my PC, and it helped with my Ableton CPU usage. So that's one example. If you build a PC from scratch, you can always upgrade it as you go. Whereas if you buy a Mac, you're not going to be able to do that. So just a couple things to look out for when you're buying a computer for music production and just in general. It's good to try to make sure nowadays it's not that expensive to have a PC or a Mac. I think most Macs probably already come with this. I'm not actually sure, but you want to have a solid state drive for the main desktop. And the basic gist is that old hard drives, they're disk hard drives. There's like a little disk inside that spins, and this is kind of like how most hard drives were like 10, 20 years ago. And now a solid state drive, I don't really know the science behind it, but it's a solid state. And I don't know, the best way I can explain it is that information inside a solid state, it can travel like instantaneously, where a disk drive, it just takes longer. So your PC or your Mac is going to go much faster if your main hard drive is a solid state hard drive. You can use if you want to use a disk hard drive for a storage hard drive, you could do that, and they're a lot cheaper, and go that route. And then as far as processors go, I don't know a lot about the AMD processors, but as far as like an Intel processor, just shoot, if you can get like a i7 or an i9 processor, just shoot for something that's fairly fast, because that's going to help when it comes to producing. When you have a project file and you have a lot of tracks going, it's nice to be able to produce and not worry about CPU usage, versus if you have a slower PC and you start to produce and add more and more tracks, you just have to be more and more conscious about that. And the more CPU, for example, in Ableton, the more CPU usage you're using, the more risk there is of Ableton crashing. I've had that issue where I have a big project file and then Ableton starts to crash, and it's kind of frustrating. So it is important. So keep that in mind. Solid state drive and a decent processor. You'll need a digital audio workstation or a DAW. And I have Ableton, but don't get caught up in, there's no one best DAW. Every DAW can get the same result. They'd all just do it in a little bit different ways. So really just pick a DAW. Maybe get a free trial on some of them and then try out and just stick with the one you like. The only caveat, the only thing that I will say is that if you are getting into music production for beat making, like you want to make beats, I do think that a lot of the beat making community uses FL Studio. FL Studio, just the way that the workflow is kind of works really well for making beats. I mean, I can still make a beat in Ableton, and anyone can make a beat using any DAW. I would maybe just go with FL Studio because a lot of the tutorials you might watch will probably have a lot of producers using FL Studio for one thing. And if you also want to collaborate with other producers making beats, if you know that most of them have FL Studio, then you might as well go with a DAW that most of the beat makers use, which is FL Studio. So, yeah, that having said, you got a DAW. Now let's move on to the next thing. Acoustic treatment. You will need acoustic treatment for two reasons. One, for when you're mixing with your monitor speakers, you want to create an environment where the sound coming out of your speakers is as flat and accurate as possible, and for recording. So when you when you're recording, you don't want a really echoey environment, because say if you're singing into a microphone and there's a lot of reverb going into the mic, well, you can't take that reverb away, and you want more of a flat signal going into the microphone. That way you can add effects to it, and it just makes it easier overall and to get the best sounding recording possible. And I have a couple pictures here. So the one on the right, this is like a professional studio. There's like levels of this, right? So you can get the cheap RLX foam, or just foam in general that's pretty cheap, all the way up to spending thousands of dollars, where, the studio here, it's like the speakers are built into the wall. The wall is it's probably built out of a fabric that's specifically made for music studios. It's like acoustic treated walls basically, but you don't really need all that to like if you're a mastering engineer, it'd be nice to have all this, of course. But really I have this diagram here because really what you want to shoot for, especially if you're on a budget, is that if you're on a budget and you can't spend a lot, your goal should be to treat at least the walls to your left and the right, the wall behind your speakers in front of you, the ceiling if possible, and then the corners. You want to put bass traps in the corners. I would start with the front wall, the wall that's behind your monitor speakers first, and then get the back corners, once you're able to afford it. You don't need to cover the entire, like every inch of your walls. And in fact, I don't really know the science behind it, but I'm pretty sure if you cover everything with acoustic treatment, it might actually hinder your sound versus if you just have acoustic treatment in strategic places. So, I would do some research on where to place it, but if you look at this diagram here, this is like a perfect little diagram of where you should place, when you're getting started at least, where some good spots to place the treatment are. So like I said, you'll need this to create an environment where the sound coming out of your speakers is as accurate and flat as possible. And what I would do, even if I had this professional studio over here, I would pair it with SonarWorks 4. And so what this is this is a calibration program, and it comes with a little microphone. And let's say that your room isn't perfectly acoustically treated, or you're in a rectangular room. You get it like 80% there. So just do your best with acoustic treatment, and then SonarWorks, you get a microphone, you measure the room, and what it does is it gives you an EQ curve, and you put this in your DAW, and then it kind of gets you the rest of the way there to get the sound coming out of your speakers as accurate as possible. So yeah, pairing some acoustic treatment with SonarWorks to me is the optimal way to do it. I wouldn't just use SonarWorks if you have no acoustic treatment at all. I've tried that before and it just doesn't really work. You really need something, you need some decent acoustic treatment from the get-go, and then adding SonarWorks in, it's kind of like my opinion, it's like having it 80% and then just adding in that 20% to really get it 100% there. So that's what I would do for setting up your room. And look up, you can get the RLX foam on the cheaper end all the way to the more expensive stuff. I like this company called Hofa, Hofa. It's a German company. They make some really great stuff. I have the curtains from there on my side walls. And then I actually built my own acoustic panels from scratch using wool insulation. So that's another thing, is you can build your own panels from scratch, and there's a lot of great tutorials on YouTube on how to do this, and I might make my own video on this as well about how I built my panels. But yeah, so I've got curtains from Hofa, and then I got my own acoustic panels that I built from scratch on the ceiling and in the bass traps, and then on the front wall, and that's how I have mine set up. So just do a little bit of research. It's not that hard, and you'll find what works for you. Okay, the desk. So honestly, you could use, I used a fold out table like this that's like 60 bucks for years. You know, it fits my, as long as it fits a keyboard and mouse, an audio interface, maybe a MIDI keyboard, and then your computer monitor screen. You could even fit some speakers onto this thing. You know, that's how my setup was. You know, get some little like ISO acoustic stands, put some speakers, and you're good to go. You know, I currently have a standing desk, and what I have is I have a standing desk, and I paired that with speaker stands, and I would actually recommend having separate speaker stands versus a desk that has the stands built into them. Because unless you have like a professional studio room, it's nice to be able to have speaker stands that you can place wherever you want. So you got your desk that you put down, and then the nice thing about speaker stands is you can really be, it gives you the flexibility of like, okay, say you measure your room with SonarWorks, and it gives you some really wonky, it shows that you're like, you're having issues with your room. Well, you can put your speakers and try them out at different locations, and you might get better sound out of where you place the speakers in your room. And if you have a desk where the stands are built into the desk, well, you just don't have that flexibility to move around the speaker. Yeah, I've got a standing desk. It holds everything I need on it. And then I've got separate speaker stands. You know, there are really cool studio desks like this one. This is the only thing that I wish that I had, was I wish I had a keyboard tray in front of me like this. That's the one thing that would be nice. And so in the future, I would like to get like they do sell studio desks that are also standing desks, and that's like one of my goals for the future. But for now, I've got my keyboard off to the side, and that works well for me. And so yeah, just do a bit of research. But you know, if you're on a budget, literally just get a plastic table and you're good to go. That's all you need. Or if you have more money to spend, if you want to get something a little fancier, if you have more outboard gear, then there are pretty cool studio desks that you can get as well. Okay, audio interface. So the audio interface is what connects your monitor speakers to your computer, as well as like your microphone or a line input. So like say if you have an electric guitar and you want to plug in, you want to play your electric guitar straight into your DAW, you can do that with an audio interface. Or if you have, like my setup is that I have a mic preamp, and my microphone goes into the preamp, which then goes into the line input into the audio interface, and then I can record and it goes into my computer. And so on the cheaper end, but pretty reliable, you can get this Scarlett, what is that, the 2i2. There's even like a Scarlett Solo. I think it's like 150 bucks or something like that. What I have is the Apollo Twin. It's like 800 bucks. I don't know the exact price, so you have to look it up. I've had mine for several years now. I've never had any issues with it at all. It's a great piece of hardware. If you can afford it, I would suggest going straight to the Apollo Twin or an Apollo product. They have great mic preamps and great, you know, you can pretty much plug it in and plug your headphones in or plug speakers in and your mic, and it'll sound pretty good. Now, the optimal setup is to have, like, this is what I have. I have a mic preamp for my microphone, which I have a Neumann TLM 103, and using a mic preamp, it just really gets the best sound out of your microphone, especially when you get into the higher end microphones. I mean, if you have a high end microphone like a Neumann U87, it's almost not even worth having unless you have a good preamp to go with it, because it really just brings out brings the most out of the microphone. And I would say the same thing goes for headphones. And so you can plug headphones into an audio interface, and the lower end headphones, maybe you won't be able to tell a difference. But once you get into the higher end headphones, like some of the Sennheiser stuff, like Sennheiser HD600s, or uh, Odyssey. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I've the Odyssey LCD X's. I mean, if you took an LCD X, which is a great pair of headphones, are amazing. If you plug them into just an audio interface and you go from that into a good headphone amp, you're going to notice a giant difference. I mean, the clarity, it just becomes so much more clear and just sounds amazing. And I have the Phonitor too. It's pretty expensive. You can sort of build. I built my studio over several years, and so you can kind of get this stuff as you go, or if you have enough money for it, get all the cool stuff right away. But I have a Phonitor too, and the cool thing about the Phonitor is that if I mix in headphones, it has this like cross-feed technology, where if you're listening in headphones, you don't really get a stereo image like you do with speakers. But the cool thing about this headphone amp is it kind of sends sound from one ear to the other, a little bit of it, and it kind of creates like a stereo image within headphones, and it's really nice. And so, and then of course, there's audio interfaces that have several inputs. If you're wanting a home studio where you're going to record like a band or something like that, or drum set, then you're going to want to look more into this. Me personally, I'm just a music producer. I produce like EDM, and so I just don't need. I'm not recording a lot of live music, and so I don't really need all that. So yeah, okay, monitor speakers and headphones. So the purpose of monitor speakers is, of course, as you're producing, you want to be able to hear the music that you're creating. But the main purpose is when you're mixing your music, you want to have a flat frequency response. And so what that means is you want to be able to have the most accurate sound coming from speakers as you can, so you can hear everything, and then mix it so that it translates to other sets of speakers. So you want to be able to mix your music that you made in your studio on your speakers, and then you want to be able to take that and, if someone listens on their phone, or if someone listens in their car, it should translate to where it sounds really good. And so let's go through some options here. If you're just starting out and you're on a budget, KRK makes some great speakers. Like these are a used pair, I believe, but you can get monitor speakers with some decent bass, the KRK6s, for $200. I mean, that's like really cheap. And if you can afford it, so I originally had these, and then my upgrade, I got the Dynaudio BM5A MK3s. They were actually MK2s back when I got them, but they got the MK3s now, and these are amazing speakers. Dynaudio is a great company. I really love how these sound. You can get these, and you'd be able to get great mixes right away, and you could have those forever, and you'd be able to mix with those, and you're good to go. I actually still have mine, but I upgraded to some Neumanns that I have here because I just felt like upgrading. And you could also pair. So what you can do is you can get something like this, or a smaller speaker, and then eventually pair it with a subwoofer. That's not totally necessary, but if you're making more music that has more bass, like EDM, dubstep, or like hip hop with a lot of 808, then it just becomes more and more necessary. But like it's one of those things where you can get away with not having a sub for like a long time. I don't have a sub. I just have the Neumanns, but they go pretty low, and so for now, I'll probably get a sub eventually, but it's just not that necessary right now. Before I move on to headphones, I just wanted to talk about speaker placement really quick. And so you can when you get your speakers, research this, of course, but I pulled up a diagram that I just found online, and you basically want to have an equilateral triangle from your listening position to the speakers. And this is another reason why speaker stands are really great. But you want to have an equilateral triangle. And I've heard a couple different things. I've heard that equilateral, just faced towards your listening position, works, but I've also read and heard that you want the triangle to go a little bit past your head, so like it's almost like you're sitting right in front of the triangle. That's actually how I have mine set up, and it seems to work really well. So I just wanted to go over that really quick when you do get your speakers, that this is how you want to set them. You want to measure them, and like if they're 5 feet apart, then just make sure they're 5 feet away from your listening position. You could use measuring tape and then just measure them side to side, and then sit there. I sat there, took the tape, and just like stretch it out to my speaker, and that's how I did it. And you could put tape on the floor. Just do whatever it takes to get to measure, and maybe have a friend help you out or whatever, and just get that equilateral triangle. So let's talk about headphones. Headphones are a really great idea because it's nice to be able to check your mixes in like several different ways. And so I think the best pair of headphones you can get for the money are probably the Audio-Technica ATH-M50Xs. They're $169, but they honestly, if you plug these into a great headphone amp, they sound like $500 headphones. I mean, they're really popular for a reason. They're really great. I would definitely start with these. They have really great bass response. I mean, it goes down. I don't know the exact numbers, but when you put those on, you can hear everything. So, pair that with some monitor speakers like this, and then you can check the bass on your headphones, go back and forth, and you can really get a great mix. I like the Sennheiser HD600s. I don't think the bass is as good on these, but they're just really nice headphones. I still have my pair of these, and they're great. The upper end, higher end stuff, LCD X's by Odyssey. You can see they're about $1,200. Really good bass response, really clear. When you put these headphones on, I mean, it's like you're listening to professional monitors, but with headphones. And they're really great. My current headphones I have, I got the Neumann NDH 30s, I believe they're called. They're also really great. They're run for like $500 or $600. And Neumann is just a really great brand, and so they sound amazing too. So I just want to throw that out there as well. I don't have a picture of them, but yeah. So the purpose, get some monitor speakers, get some headphones. That way you can really mix, and then mix and also master your own music as well. Okay, so microphones. So if you're gonna record vocals, maybe you want to record some scratch vocals for when if you're writing something and you're gonna have another vocalist sing it, or maybe you want to sing your own on your own stuff. I sing on some of my own stuff, or if you want to record like an acoustic guitar or whatever you want to do, you'll need a microphone. I think a great starter mic, and even just a great mic in general, is the Rode NT1A. A couple $100. You pair that with that Focusrite interface, and it can really take you a long ways. And I say starter mic, but I mean, there's been incredible albums recorded and produced on really minimal gear. I mean, if you go look into the Bon Iver, Justin Vernon, when he went off to that cabin and recorded his first big album, it was very minimal gear. So, don't be afraid don't think that you can't record amazing music if you had something like a lower end microphone with a lower end interface. It's really about how you use it. You can really go a long ways if you know what you're doing. Neumann makes some great mics. I have the TLM 103. I have owned a U87 in the past, and it's amazing, of course. And then the cables, of course, they do make a difference. So the Mogami Golds, I have Mogami Golds plugging through everything. I've got my speakers through those, and as well as the mic cables, use those. And so just do a little bit of research. Mogami Golds, I think there's some other brands out there that are known to be like really, really great too. It all makes a difference, right? So just depending on what you need, even the microphone I'm using now, I mean, this is all known as the great podcasting mic. You see these all over the place, but also this same mic was used recording, I believe, I don't know which album, but a lot of Michael Jackson recorded using this same microphone. And it's like, it's a little spendy. It's $400, but that's not really that spendy compared to, a Neumann U87. So, research what you need the mic for, and, your voice type or what you're going to be recording the most, and, and just find what works for you, and you can upgrade as you go. This is kind of like bonus stuff, and it just depends on what you need, what kind of musician you are, and what kind of music you'll be producing and recording. And so I have a big keyboard, like a practice keyboard with like weighted keys that I just plug in as my MIDI controller. I have had MIDI controllers on my desk, which is nice. A MIDI controller is for when it only triggers MIDI in your DAW. And so say you have a synthesizer and you want to produce and you want to come up with some stuff, or you want to have if you have a cool piano sample library, you can plug a MIDI controller in and you can play it, and you can just use that to trigger the synths or whatever instruments you're using in your DAW. They have some that are not that expensive, and so just do a little bit of research. And then from there, it just depends on what you need. If you're you might need a larger room. Obviously, if you're like doing a band setup, you wanted some drums. This part's just really up to you. What kind of musician are you? What instruments will you need? Okay, so that was my presentation on what you need to put together a basic home studio. I hope it didn't take too long, but at the same time, I just wanted to make sure I was thorough with going through everything that I think you need to have a adequate home studio. Just to go through it again really quick, so you'll need a computer. You'll need a digital audio workstation like Ableton or FL Studio or Logic. You'll need a desk and some speaker stands and some speakers. You'll need an audio interface. You'll need acoustic treatment to really make sure that you have a good listening environment as well as a good recording environment. And you will need a microphone if you plan on recording some singing or record some instruments. And then as far as instruments go, that's really up to you, and it depends on what kind of music you want to make. And really, it's with the whole studio in general, you can have a really basic setup and you can make a lot of great music, and it's up to you to really go into more depth of the research and figure out exactly what you need. But I feel like this just was get you started in the right direction, let you know the things that you absolutely will need to have a home studio. And like I said before, if you just want to make music, you can start right away by just using a laptop and a DAW and some headphones, and you're good to go. So if you like this video and it helped, please like the video and subscribe. That would really help my channel grow. And if you click the link below, I'm giving a free ebook out. This ebook, I cover like myths of mixing and mastering, things to watch out for, and really it's an ebook that will save you lots of time and money. So go get that ebook and check it out. I think it'll help you a lot, especially if you're a beginner or intermediate music producer / mix engineer. Okay, once again, thanks a lot, and I'll see you guys later.